Hello, everyone. Hopefully you can hear this without too much breaking up and background echoes. To talk about Qigong and how it helps with stress, first of all, I'd like to clarify some points about Qigong. Qigong itself is a term that can be used very widely, but can be quite misleading. And that's because Qigong, because it literally just means energy exercise, it's not really specific enough to indicate exactly what a person is doing. An analogy that I use is that the Qigong is an umbrella term, and it's very much like saying we have, or we are playing a ball game. There are many types of ball game. We have football, golf, tennis, pool, and all these ball games have their own different rules and different methods for utilizing the ball. It is very much the same. It's a very wide-ranging term that does not really indicate what a person is doing. The Qigong that I'm specifically talking about is Dao Yin, and in particular a system called Dao Yin Yang Sheng. And I will come to that a little bit later. The Dao Yin itself is one of the oldest type Qigong and is primarily physically active. With that, it means that we don't have very much in the way of meditative practices within that. It's largely constant movement. The Yang Sheng aspect of that is the term itself, Yang Sheng, means to nourish life. And so Dao Yin Sheng means to nourish life through the Dao Yin type of exercise. Now, the reason that we talk about exercise in particular in related to stress is because stress itself, again, is a very wonderful thing. It can be good for us, it can be bad for us. It's our reaction to stress that creates problems. For instance, we all need stress. Acute stress is very, very good for us. So when you are crossing a road and you have to suddenly dodge a car, acute stress kicks in, and that's what saves the day. We need that burst of energy and that burst to get us across the road safely. However, stress that is around for a long time, chronic stress, that's not useful for us. The big issue there, that stress is initially designed to make the body move fast. And this is where we have our usual expression of the fight or response. When something happens, we either have to gear the body up physically to actually fight or to run away. The action that happens there is that the stress or stressor affects the mind first, and then that triggers the stress response in the body, and all the body's systems get to either fight or run away. So this is the physical reaction. And so the body is loaded with everything it needs to react in a quick manner. This is very good for us in the acute stage. However, when the acute condition has finished, the stress should disappear. However, as many people are only unfortunately too aware, what happens is that we get into stressful situations that are protracted and go on, and ultimately it leads us into a chronic state. And the difficulty there is that the body is geared up for action, which we cannot give it. Now, because the body on its first level of stress requires activity, this is why we believe that the Qigong exercises are particularly helpful, because it requires physical activity. I always found personally it very difficult if I was feeling stressed when someone said, "Oh, just calm down." It's very difficult to be calm and relaxed when the body is physically geared up for activity. So this way of dealing with things helps us, particularly with the stress relief, to actually work with the body and its natural inclination to move. The added advantage that we have is that with the exercises, which are standard Qigong exercises really, and what they are designed to do is specifically work the parts of the internal organs that are actually involved in the stress response. So we have two different approaches in the book on this. One is for stress relief and the other for stress prevention. Now what we have, and why we have two, is when the stress or the stressor, whatever it is, hits us, it acts on the mind first. And this is the part of the activity which is considered the onset. And the onset of stress triggers the mind, and the mind itself then creates activity in the body. When we have this activity taking place, what we need is to be able to separate these two activities out, or the two responses out. If a person is stressed, in the first instance, in chronic stress, particularly talking about, we need to relieve the stress. And so there is a set of exercises specifically to relieve the stress. That's the bit that works on the body, and particularly the physical activities required to relieve the stress. However, you can keep on relieving stress, but that does nothing or very little in actually replacing or the onset. The onset, we need stress prevention. And so in our approach, there's the yin and yang activity. So we have one set of exercises which work primarily on the mind and a little bit on the body. So we have the yin and the yang together there as well. And what happens in that is this is done to prevent stress coming in. And then we have the stress relief exercises for those already suffering from stress. Hopefully we get a good balance between the exercises. If we only do the stress relief, this is very helpful, but it does nothing to prevent the stress coming in. And if you already have stress, having stress prevention is good to stop more coming in, but it does very little to prevent or deal with what's already there. So this is why I require the dual approach. Now, at the Maggie's Cancer Care Centre, we have been using this approach for the last 3 years now, very effectively, and the results basically speak for themselves there. The people at the centre clearly have health issues and are clearly stressed because of that. But they find that the exercises work wonders for them. In fact, that particular times that we are there are the most popular things in the centre. And the results tend to be quite quick as well. So we know these activities work, and we need to spread them more, I think. So to recap there, then we have Yang Sheng is the culture for nourishing life. Chronic stress is something that interferes with us nourishing life. So what we need to do is get back into this life nourishing approach with our Daoyin exercises. Now the exercises themselves are quite straightforward. They're simple, although some people might dispute that, but they have the desired effect. And I think the majority of people that are familiar with the exercises would tend to agree that they do what it says on the box. It does work. Now, I'm hoping you've heard all of that, because it's a bit awkward here. So I'm open to taking now, so if anybody's got any questions, feel free to. Anybody?
Hi, Gordon. I'm hoping that you can hear me all right.
It's still breaking up a little.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and type down any questions that I have in the chat box to eliminate any feedback for the listeners, okay?
Mm-hmm. Okay, yep.
Perfect. I'm wondering, just to see if this works, how would you say that Qigong is a better remedy for stress management than another physical activity?
I only caught part of that, so if you write that down for me. Right. The question was, how would you say that Qigong is better for stress management than other physical activities? Now, all physical activity is actually quite good for stress, because the stress response, as I've mentioned, is to deal with the fight or flight response. Activity is good because the body is geared for the activity, and so any kind of physical activity can be helpful. However, the Qigong is specific movements designed with a specific function, and each exercise is designed to work a particular part of the, shall we say, the disharmony that stress causes. For instance, one of the things that is that the mind can become agitated, and so some of the exercises are specifically for calming the mind. In Chinese medicine, the stagnation in the liver is considered to be one of the problems that occurs with stress, and so some of these particular exercises are designed to remove stagnation from the liver. So all exercises can be useful, but their use is, if you like, scientific. And what we really want for is targeted activity, such as these exercises. This gives us a much greater chance of dealing with the chronic stress. Hopefully that's enough. Any more? Anybody there? Yep. So there's a message with so many Qigong forms out there wanted you to create stress management forms. That came about actually at a meeting with Qigong people, or particularly Daoyin people in Portugal. And it was at that meeting with the presidents of the European Federation, and one of the principal characters there was a representative from the Beijing Sports University, has the main Daoyin Yangcheng Center. Now, Zhou Jin, who is the representative, told me it was time that the instructors in the West had started to produce routines and exercises specifically to deal with our own health issues. Because in her travels, she'd noticed that in different areas, people have different health problems. And so at the time, I didn't pay much heed to it. But a few weeks later, I received an invitation to speak in Germany at the 37th Traditional Chinese Medicine Conference. And that was to be the following year. And the theme of that conference was stress. And so that was again, it was if you like, the serendipity. It was the two events so close together that really got me into looking at stress. And I think we all know that we've had stress at some point in the past. And I was reading some of the government figures over here in Scotland, which was showing that the levels of stress were rising every year. And therefore, I thought, let's see if we can do something about this. So far, it seems to work, but as I say, I'm only working in a small group at the moment with at the Cancer Care Centre. The system has been adopted in other cancer care centres, but we're still trying to push it out to more areas. And so one of the things is that cancer definitely have stress, and their responses to it, for me, have made it worthwhile, and they're particularly happy that we created these forms. Okay, any more questions? Speak to me. Sure, some of you are aware how stressful it is, but you can only hear half of the conversation as well. Another question from Rachel: how would you recommend someone get involved in Qigong? That, in most areas around these days, you can usually find a Qigong class. And unfortunately, there are many types of Qigong. Some are general, some are like mind specific. The even general ones should have some effect. Now, there are, I'm not familiar with the layout. It's been a long time since I was teaching myself in America. But years ago when I was there, there was certainly schools around. You could usually find adverts in bookstores, health centres, and so on for them. They're normally associated also with the Tai Chi. All of these are a good place to start. One thing that I would say is have a look around. There are, like any form of activity, there are some that you will find suitable and some that you will find unsuitable. And that's because some Qigong can be very dynamic, some is much more meditative. And you'll need to find the one that you yourself will resonate on that. Some activities work better in groups, some work better in solo routines. So ask around. It's usually these days that they are everywhere if you ask the right questions.
Thank you so much, Gordon.
My pleasure. Take care.